Have you ever known you were being manipulated and still felt like you were the one who had to apologize? Like you could see the game unfolding in front of you. You knew the rules were being rewritten in real time, but somehow you still ended up questioning yourself. That's what gaslighting does. Let me tell you about my friend Sam. He's sharp, one of those people who actually reads psychology books for fun. He knows the red flags. He knows the patterns. He can explain emotional abuse like he's giving a TED Talk. And still, he stayed in a relationship where he was being gaslit almost every single day. And the part that really got to me? Every time he came to me after another argument, he'd say the same thing. I know exactly what she's doing. I literally see it as it's happening, but I can't stop doubting myself. It's haunting, isn't it, to know the truth and still feel like maybe you're the problem, because that's what gaslighting does. It doesn't just mess with what you believe. It messes with how you believe. It inserts a crack in your reality, and every time you try to stand on solid ground, the floor shifts just enough to make you stumble. It's not dramatic, it's not loud, it's slow erosion, the kind you don't even notice until entire parts of your self-confidence have quietly disappeared. When Sam caught his girlfriend lying, and I mean full, undeniable, factual lies, she wouldn't deny it outright. That would be too obvious. Instead, she'd gently, almost sweetly say, "I think you're remembering it wrong. You always get defensive like this." Just that, nothing more. And somehow, that sentence would sit in his mind like a virus. That's the danger. It doesn't have to convince you. It just has to confuse you. It just needs to make you ask, wait, am I the one distorting things? Even when you're not. Even when you know you're not. Because your brain, no matter how intelligent or emotionally aware you are, doesn't run on truth. It runs on coherence. It wants things to make sense. It wants harmony. And if the person you're emotionally attached to keeps telling you that you're the one misremembering, misunderstanding, misinterpreting, eventually your mind will bend toward the version of reality that causes less friction, even if it's a lie. Here's where it gets dark. Your brain, your nervous system, your entire sense of identity starts to rewire itself for survival inside this altered reality. That's what was happening to Sam. He wasn't choosing to believe her. He was needing to believe her, because the alternative meant accepting that the person he loved was actively dismantling his grip on reality. And that's not something most people are psychologically prepared to face. There's a deeper layer to this, and it's one of the reasons gaslighting is so effective. It's called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when two conflicting beliefs try to live in your brain at the same time. In Sam's case, she loves me, versus she's manipulating me. Both can't be true, so something has to give. And what usually breaks is your trust in yourself. The human brain hates contradiction, so it finds a way to reduce the tension by rewriting your memories, your interpretations, even your emotional reactions. You start to believe that maybe you did overreact. Maybe you are too sensitive. Maybe you're just difficult. You know what made it worse for Sam? The moments of kindness. That one afternoon where she curled up next to him on the couch and told him he made her feel safe. The handwritten note she left in his bag before a work meeting. The nights where everything felt right again. That's what kept him stuck. That's what kept him coming back. Because it wasn't always bad. And that's the psychological trap. Intermittent reinforcement. It's the same system that makes slot machines addictive. You never know when the good version of the person will show up. So your brain keeps pulling the lever. And when they do show you affection, it feels earned, like a reward. And it rewires your sense of what love is supposed to feel like. Unpredictable, scarce, intense. So you stay. Not because you're weak, not because you don't know better, but because part of you is still waiting for that version of them to come back and stay for good. Sam wasn't falling for the lies. He was falling for the possibility that the lies might stop. That if he just communicated better, tried harder, kept the peace, then maybe, the version of her who made him feel seen would stay. But she never stayed. And every time he brought up something that hurt him, she'd turn the tables, not by yelling, not by insulting, but by flipping the emotional script. She'd say things like, "You're always making me feel like the bad guy," or "I can never do anything right in your eyes." And suddenly, Sam was comforting her, apologizing for bringing it up, reassuring her that she wasn't the problem. That's how deep it gets. The person being hurt becomes the one who does the emotional labor. And the person doing the hurting becomes the victim. It's a reversal of reality, and if you're not careful, you stop trusting what you feel. You stop standing up for what you know, and you begin to live in a version of the world that's not actually yours. So why does gaslighting work even when you know it's happening? Because knowledge doesn't live in your body. Fear does, because self-doubt doesn't need logic to grow. It just needs repetition. Because love, when tangled with control, can feel like safety, even when it's slowly killing you. And here's the most terrifying part. The smarter you are, the harder it can be to accept that you're being manipulated. Why? Because your ego gets in the way, because you don't want to believe that you, of all people, could fall for it, but you did, and maybe you're still in it. Maybe you're watching this, thinking of that one person, the one you defend to your friends, the one who always has a complicated excuse, the one who sometimes makes you feel insane and sometimes makes you feel euphoric. And maybe you're wondering, is this happening to me? Don't answer yet, because I'm going to show you what happened to Sam after he finally realized the truth, what it did to his mental health, how deeply it messed with his identity, and most importantly, how he found his way back. Because gaslighting isn't just something you escape, it's something you heal from. But first, you have to stop doubting the one voice they've tried hardest to silence, your own. Do you remember what it felt like after the fight ended? Not the yelling, not the actual argument. I mean after, the quiet. That strange stillness where your thoughts feel like static, where you're sitting there replaying everything in your head, not even to defend yourself, but just trying to understand what actually happened. That was Sam's entire life for months. He started living in that afterspace, where nothing made sense, but he kept pretending it did, because pretending felt safer than confronting the truth. You know what he told me one night? I don't know how to talk about it anymore. I start explaining what's going on, and halfway through, I feel like I'm exaggerating, or worse, lying, even though I know I'm not. That's what gaslighting does. It takes your memories, your own lived reality, and puts them on trial. It makes you second-guess your tone, your words, even your pain. It doesn't just make you feel wrong, it makes you feel unreal. And over time, Sam stopped trusting himself. He'd flinch when he spoke up. He'd pause before saying what he felt, trying to anticipate how she'd spin it. He was editing his emotions in real time. He wasn't just surviving the relationship. He was erasing pieces of himself to fit into it. And the worst part, he didn't even notice it happening at first. It was like emotional erosion. Not dramatic, not obvious, just little moments where he'd think, maybe I should have said that differently. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I did push too hard. You know how trauma doesn't always feel like trauma? Sometimes it feels like you're just hard to love. There was one night, I still remember it. Sam called me after another one of their non-fights. The kind where no one yells, but everything in your soul feels cracked. He said, I don't even want to be right anymore. I just want it to stop. And that sentence hit me harder than anything, because when you're being gaslit, winning the argument isn't the goal anymore. You just want the emotional fog to clear. You want to feel sane again. You want to feel real again. But you can't think clearly when your brain is stuck in survival mode. You start feeling anxiety in your chest when your phone lights up. You start bracing for a fight, even in silence. You start apologizing just to reset the emotional climate, even when you did nothing wrong. That's what was happening to Sam. His nervous system was shot. He couldn't sleep. He'd lost weight. His creativity, gone. His work started to suffer. He stopped seeing his friends. He wasn't living anymore. He was managing his life like a crisis response team, but still, he stayed. Why? Because trauma bonding is real. Because intermittent affection makes chaos feel like love. Because he kept believing that if he could just do one thing better, he'd get the version of her he fell for in the beginning. But here's the secret no one tells you. That version of them, the kind one, the understanding one, the warm, affectionate one who made you feel seen, that wasn't real. It was a hook, a mask, a setup, a performance designed to make you stay just long enough for the control to begin. And by the time you realize it's a performance, you're already emotionally addicted to the idea of them, not the reality. You ever look back at a message you sent someone and wonder who the hell wrote it? Like, why was I apologizing for having a boundary? Sam started finding texts like that in his own phone, messages where he was bending, shrinking, over-explaining, begging for basic decency like it was a favor. That's when it hit him. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about what he had allowed himself to become to survive her. That's the part no one talks about. The guilt after gaslighting, not their guilt, yours. Because once you leave, If you're lucky enough to leave, a new voice takes over in your head, one that says, "How did I let this happen? Why didn't I leave sooner? Why didn't I fight back harder?" But that voice is wrong, because the version of you that stayed, that was the version trying to survive, the one doing the best it could under emotional siege, the one just trying to hold on to a version of love that didn't keep leaving bruises. Sam wasn't weak for staying. He was injured, and when your nervous system is inflamed with fear, shame, and guilt, you don't make empowered choices, you make survival choices. So what changed? How did he finally break the pattern? It wasn't dramatic. There was no big fight, no explosion, no movie moment, just silence. One night, she started blaming him again. Subtle, quiet, a familiar routine, and something in him just shut off. He didn't argue, he didn't explain, he just sat there, still, watching her words move around the room like smoke, realizing none of them belonged to him anymore. Because once you start trusting your reality again, even a little, the spell begins to break. He left 3 days later, no apology, no final talk. Just left, because you don't need closure from someone who profits off your confusion. You just need to remember what it feels like to live in a reality that makes sense again. So, what happens after you finally leave? Not in theory, in reality. You'd think the moment of escape would feel like relief, like breaking the surface after drowning. But for Sam, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like withdrawal. Because when someone's been rewiring your nervous system for months, even years, removing them doesn't remove the damage. It just removes the stimulus. And now your body is left asking, where's the threat? And when there's no obvious threat, it starts turning on itself. He didn't feel stronger. The chaos had become his compass. The anxiety had become his constant. The emotional violence had become his proof that he was still needed. That's what people don't understand about gaslighting. The damage isn't just in the relationship, it's in the after. The trust issues aren't just with others, they're with yourself. He'd sit at his kitchen table at 2 a.m., rereading old arguments, trying to prove to himself that it was real, that it was as bad as he remembered, that he didn't make it up. That's what trauma does. It steals your memory and your ability to trust it. Sam told me once, "I know I left her, but sometimes I still wonder if I overreacted, like I made it all worse." And I just sat there, because I've been there too. Healing doesn't start with forgiveness. It starts with uncertainty. You start asking yourself uncomfortable questions, not about them, about you. How long did I ignore the signs? Why did I silence myself? Why did I keep trying to earn love that was being withheld like a reward? That's the real recovery work. It's not about demonizing them, it's about resurrecting yourself, piece by piece. And the first piece? Learning to stop apologizing for your truth. Sam had to relearn the sound of his own voice without someone distorting it. He started doing something I found strangely beautiful. He'd talk to himself, literally, out loud. He'd walk around his apartment and say out loud what he was thinking, what he was feeling, what he remembered. No filter, no shame. He was reprogramming the belief that his perspective was valid, and it changed him. Slowly, the static cleared. His sleep came back. His appetite returned. He started laughing again. Real belly laughs. The kind that catch you by surprise. He didn't need therapy to be fixed, because he was never broken. He just needed space, silence, time, and a reality that didn't bend every time he spoke. There's something I want you to hear. Not just read, hear. If you've ever felt like you were the crazy one, you weren't. If you ever started questioning whether your memories were accurate, they were. If you ever caught yourself apologizing for having boundaries, you were never wrong. And if you ever looked in the mirror and couldn't quite recognize who was looking back, you're not alone. That version of you, the confused one, the quiet one, the apologetic one, they were trying to protect you. Don't hate them. They got you here. But now, it's time to let them rest. Because there's another version of you underneath all that noise. The one who never stopped noticing, never stopped feeling, never stopped knowing something was off. That voice was never gone. It was just waiting for permission to speak again. Sam didn't become some perfect symbol of recovery. He still flinches at certain phrases, still checks in with friends when he doubts his memory, still gets triggered by manipulation in movies or arguments that feel too familiar. But now, He trusts himself enough to not collapse under it. That's the real victory, not perfection. Power. The power to choose who gets access to your mind. The power to walk away from confusion without needing a permission slip. The power to say, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. And you, if you've ever been in that kind of fog, you can get there too. It starts with one small, defiant act, believing yourself, even if no one else ever did. Because that's the final twist of gaslighting no one talks about. The moment they made you doubt yourself, you became dangerous. Because if you survive it, and I mean really survive it, your sensitivity becomes a weapon. Your empathy becomes your armor, your ability to see clearly, unstoppable. You stop falling for fake apologies. You stop shrinking to keep someone else comfortable. You stop choosing potential over peace. And eventually, you stop asking, was it really that bad? And start saying with quiet certainty, it was, and I'm never going back.